Shalom, and welcome to a very special edition of Parsha Talk. I'm Rabbi Elliot Malamet, Highland Park, New Jersey, the Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation, Anshe Emet. And joining me, my good friends, Rabbi Barry Chesler, Solomon Schechter Day School of Long Island, Rabbi Jeremy Kalmanovsky, and the Anshe Chesed in New York City. We are recording this days before Rosh Hashanah. So we don't have a regular Parsha, a regular amazing Parsha. We do, of course, have important Torah readings on the first and second days of Rosh Hashanah, the story of Hagar and Ishmael and Kedah Yitzchak. But I think what we want to do today for all of our listeners and viewers is try and enter the mood of the holidays, especially Rosh Hashanah, and try and understand and focus on some of the key emotional moments. Let's face it, we are coming to shul. We've talked about this in the last couple of weeks about how we make a pilgrimage to shul, how we're coming into an assembly of people, and we've been trying to figure out the content of the experience of being in shul and focusing on not so much what is said, although we are very much inclined as rabbis to talk a lot and to explain a lot and to teach. But we know that people come out of the service not so much remembering what we say, although we hope they do. But if the service works, they come out with something in their mind. They may be singing a tune. I don't know how it is for you, but when the service works, I'm walking home from shul and I'm singing Rosh Hashanah, or all of the other melodies of Avinu Malkeinu and the like. And so what I want to focus on are what are the emotional moments? What are the key emotional moments? And the emotional moments are the vehicles for those emotional moments are often the music. So I'm going to start off with Rabbi Jeremy Kalmanovsky. Emotion. We're talking emotion here. What's emotional for you? What are the peak emotional moments for you on Rosh Hashanah?
Well, first of all, there are so many, and it is interesting, as you just were alluding to. I am, you are, we are wordy. I don't mean verbose. I mean like we're word focused, and I feel that poetry, is a tremendously emotion packed thing. So I really get the poetry, and I also feel that because I'm blessed to have pretty good Hebrew and I know the prayer book pretty well, it's accessible to me in a way that it is just like quantitatively less accessible to most of the people in the room. And so I do think about how it is that we can shape it to open it up to the maximum ability for people who don't know the prayer book as well as I do, or don't know the Hebrew as well as I do. So I do think it is connected to music a great deal. And I also think that the words have a ton. So I will say a few things that to me are just amazing. So first of all, Natasha Hirschhorn, my chazan that I work with, she always in the Kiddusha of Musa, she always hits a real strong, uplifting, is usually the Karl Bach tune, when we say Shema Yisrael in the Kiddusha. The room is always soaring. And to me, one of the major things is that membership feeling. All of these Jews who haven't come to synagogue very often in the year have come now and with full throat, with lungs full of air, are saying Shema Yisrael. And to me, that's one of I could go on in the course of our 30 minutes together. I could go on.
We'll do a couple of rounds of this. So
yeah, we'll do a few rounds, but that's that affirmative. And blessedly, we got a pretty full sanctuary at this point. We got 1,000 people yell Shema Yisrael, and you say, yes, the Jewish people were not dead yet.
Is there a melody that she uses, or is it just?
It's usually she varies it up, and it'll be the Krakow niggun, the Karl Bach Krakow niggun. Shema Yisrael. No, it's not that. It's whatever. It'll come back to me. It'll come back.
Barry, how about you? Is there
key emotion? I think that I don't always go at night. But the Borchu and the Kaddish are very moving. The B'chayechon, because you've waited all year for that, and then you finally hear it, and I've always been struck by that. A personal favorite is Han Shamalach, which we also say on Slichot. And I was thinking that I guess one of the big moments for the last 12 years or so, I've mostly been at a Young Israel for the Yamim Noraim, and everyone bows for Aleinu in the Malchuyot section of Musaf, and then for the Avodah on Yom Kippur. And I find that to be very moving. Everyone makes, you got to make your space so you could bow down on the floor. And there's something very primitive, not in a negative sense, but in a very powerful sense that it touches something, I think, deep within me. When you go,
the body, it's like you're in your body, and it's your whole, because what we normally bow, during, let's say, Aleinu, you're just bending your knees, really. It's not, it's perfunctory. But when you got to get down on the floor, you got to get a body down there.
Right. And it forces you to think differently because it's not a comfortable position to be in.
Sometimes when I'm doing that, I just go, stay here for a minute. just stay here for a minute. That's just real, take a breath. It is a good pause, but it's like this, you are coming into contact with an authentic experience. You're being a temple experience in some ways. Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about an emotional moment, and it's tied to a melody, and I'll probably get emotional singing it now because it always gets me emotional, which is it's really one of the dominant themes of in the music, which is da 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 da. Da, 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 so it goes up and then it goes down, and that it's in a major key, which is kind of has that kind of glow about it, and it takes you a little bit in, I don't know if it goes minor, but it takes you down, and that's
like Suzanne.
yeah, that's right. So I that's the melody that is the Baruch melody, but it's also, I use that melody for the tekiah, the bracha for the shofar. Baruch actually no, for the Shechianu. I'm sorry, the Shechianu.
Yeah, for Shechianu. Yeah.
So the Shechianu, I'll do the bracha for the shofar with the kind of real, a lot of fervor. It's Asher Kichanu Isodav Tzivanu Lishma Kol Shofar. Little bit of creation there, recreation, and then Baruch Atah Aharon Shecheya. So it goes from the awe to the major, the minor to the major in that bracha. And I feel that's what it's all about. You have awe, but you have joy. And it's when we were reciting the Shechianu and the congregation joins me when I sing that, which is wonderful. That's that is a great experience to have everybody singing together. And you're saying here, we made it. We made it. We made it to another year where we're going to experience the shofar blowing experience, situated where it is in the services, is right at the apex of the morning, between the end of the Torah reading and the Musaf, right? That it's perfectly placed for, this crescendo, focuses people. I think, there's a lot of mystery in it. I meditate a lot on the meaning of it, because it takes you into different places. There's memory there. There's a stirring. There's even a hint of violence in the music, and a hint of violence in the fact that you're taking this horn from the head of an animal. Therefore, you have to commit an act of violence in order to procure it. So we're not far removed from things that are very, very visceral, and in the sense that you mentioned, Barry, primitive, not in the sense of anything pejorative, but authentic. And you know what? It doesn't get more authentic than the sound of the shofar in terms of what a sound is. It's a primal sound, and
primal becomes a really good word here, because both the bowing and the shofar. This is not, like there was a time in the 19th century and early 20th century, as liberal Judaism was getting so modern and shedding so many of these, primal associations, and it became, oh, you'll forgive me for saying such a thing about our Reformed brethren, like the Reformed Judaism of the late 19th or 20th century, as they would have said, this is ethical monotheism stripped of all of those old associations.
Yeah.
And we are for ethical monotheism. This is the place where you get down on the ground like your ancestors did. You bring the horn of an animal, which is, of course, for ancestors, their basic form of worship was killing an animal and eating an animal. I mean, long enough ago, ancestors. So this is the place where the animal returns. We'll have some plants in Sukkot in a few weeks, but I do think that the elemental primal stuff, you dig down really deep, and the sound of the shofar. Of course, the sound of the shofar is not, a melody with hard. No, it's a scream. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I read a lot about music last year. I wrote about the shofar in terms of music, and I gave a sermon that I really appreciated, but I don't think very many people appreciate it. And it's successful, although one or two, and that that the shofar is a sound that separates the heavens from the earth, and it's the sound that mixes joy with trepidation, joy and fear, and allow yourself to go there. Allow yourself to, and I really, and I have the lungs still, the capacity to blow the shofar, and of course we play around with how long the tekiah, the gedola is, and all that, but I blow it in order to feel it, and it's I don't know if you have this experience, but sometimes when I blow the shofar, certainly, and when I listen to the shofar, at about 3 or 4 beats in, 5 beats in, you get that there's a certain thing that goes through you. It's not electricity, but there is a shake, and you go, yeah, and that's it. I don't know what the content of that is, but it's there's emotion there, there's joy, there's fear, there's your life, there's everything, and we put it all on the bima. We leave it all on the bima. That's right.
Leave it on the bima. So I have a verse. Again, back to the word part. In the our listeners will know, our loyal fans will know that the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah is a very unique structure. It's unlike any other prayer, and you've got 3 major themes: Malchuyot, divine majesty; Zichronot, the permanence of divine memory and attention; and Shofarot, the theme of the shofar as redemptive and revelatory. And in the Zichronot, and in each case, there's the section is built around Bible verses, as it were. We quote the Bible back to God.
A
And
bouquet.
these are a bouquet of verses. And in the Zichronot section, there's 3 or 4 from the Torah, 3 or 4 from the writings, 3 or 4 from the prophets, and from the prophet Jeremiah in the Zichronot section, the divine memory or divine attention. Haven Yakir li Ephraim, is Ephraim not my darling child? Im Yeled Sha'ashuim, this child in which I delight. Ki midei dabri bo zachor ezkerenu od. Whenever I speak of him, I remember him. I still remember him. Al kein hamu me'ailo. My insides tremble. Rachem arachamenu ne'om Adonai. I love him so much, and will not surprise anyone to know, I'm a believer. I really am, and I feel tremendous divine. But when I say that verse, now 29 years that I've been a parent, I felt the first time, maybe the first year that I was a parent, but in those early years when I was leading services with little children in my family, I just felt that verse was a total expression. I felt that for the first time in my life, I understood divine love. I felt that I understood how God could love us so much, love the world, love people so much, that my heart just trembles. And so saying that verse just took it home.
It is amazing when the text confirms something emotional, and that's what it is. Barry, I don't know if you have we're going on round 2 here of emotional moments.
So we were talking earlier about Unetana Tokef, which has got to be one of the greatest works of liturgical poetry. And there are lots of aspects about it that speak to me, and some might speak to myself. But the refrain, Utshuva Utfila Utstaka Mavirinet Roah Gzeira, I find to be very true. So I think it was Rabbi Eliezer Diamond, our teacher and colleague, who pointed out that Mavirin is probably best understood mean to postpone, because sooner or later, and of course we hope later, we get the decree of death, right? We're not going to survive Rosh Hashanah. And the thing that strikes me is that it makes it actually more realistic, because what are we actually bargaining for or asking God for? We just want a little more, however more that might be. And the piece that I like is the 3 things, Tshuva, Tefillah, Tzedakah, which we might understand Tshuva as a turning to ourselves, as Tefillah, a turning to God, although some people would reverse them, and Tzedakah as a turning to the world. Because the critical piece of the high holidays is not just our work with God, it's that work has to find meaning in the world. That it come to shul on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and think we abandon the world, then I think we missed the point. It's supposed to take us back into the world, equipped to change it.
One of the things that I really like about that line also, I think people totally agree with what you said about the grandeur of this liturgical thing. It's because there's a well-known story that associates opposition with the Crusader persecutions in the 12th to 13th century. That story is apocryphal, and the text is actually quite old. The text is actually back to probably the 7th or 8th century. Kalir it is probably written by Kalir or someone of Kalir's orbit. And I think modern people they get this thing about the 3 books, and God decides for the righteous or the wicked or the middle, and they think it seems fatalistic, and they don't really believe that God sits up there and decides. By the way, I'm a total believer, but I also don't think God decides, Goldfarb, you're dying on March 12th. That's not
Which Goldfarb?
Morris G or Morris F.
Exactly.
So because people, I think they read this book about the books and Rosh Hashanah, it's written, and they think it's fatalistic, but it is the exact opposite, which is to say that the Rosh Hashanah, it's written, but it's not totally written, because it's not sealed until Yom Kippur. And by the way, ad yom moto tichakelo, you actually have until the day of death. God still waits for a person to become the best version of themselves that they could be, to do exactly what Barry said, to fill their lives with repentance that takes their souls seriously, with tefillah that takes their relationship with God seriously, with tzedakah, which takes their relationship to other people seriously. And this prayer is so powerful because it is the opposite of fatalistic. It says, make, in Heschel's phrase, make your life a work of art. Be the most extraordinary, spiritual, worshipful, righteous person you can be. And I'll wait for you ad yom moto. I'll wait for you until you die.
So I want to add a peculiar piece into the emotional landscape of the holidays that I think it's gotten short shrift in many of our congregations because of the way we relate to the cantorial position and cantorial arts. We are not in the golden age of cantorial music anymore. That epoch, was at the beginning of last century, and with the great famous cantors, and everything now is an aspiration to. There are certainly amazing cantors, and there are incredible people, but the audience and the music may not hit the same chord, and I wonder what the Hineni, for example, meant in a kind of earlier 20th century audience, as opposed to now. People are sitting through the Hineni and they're not really focusing on it, not really, watching it. But the Hineni was a great dramatic moment, in the most melodramatic ways. There are, traditions where the chazan comes in from the back. I kind of poo-pooed it once when I had a guest chazan, and he wanted to come in from the back of the sanctuary and walk up, reciting the Hineni. And I didn't really appreciate it as much. I thought it was just a little bit much, over the top. However, I'm a big fan of it. I'm a big fan because the music is just unbelievable. The words are unbelievable. And one early on, and I was a student, I was doing the kolbo thing. I was being the chazan and the rabbi, and I had to learn this piece. It's a very difficult. I went to a music teacher in Montreal to learn this, an opera singer, and she really, really taught me how to project and how to develop this. And she'd said, you have to use your instrument. You have to use your instrument. I said, what do you mean? I'm not playing anything. It's no, your voice is your instrument. Your body is your instrument. You have to feel it. You have to breathe it, etc. And if you get into the mind of cantorial people and singers in general, you understand that they really take the production of music so seriously. It's about everything connected to their body. But it's an ironic piece of text and ironic music, because he says, "Hineni he'ani mimaz." Here I am, impoverished. Nirash v'nifchad mipachad. I'm overwhelmed by fear, right? And it's a very pious prayer, but it's set to the most elaborate music. And so there's a bit of a joke going on here. There's like, I'm so small, I'm so small, I'm so but I have such a big voice. I'm telling you how humble I am. Come and tefilati, accept my prayer, like beloved as it is, don't be overwhelmed by my sins, right? Ha'emet v'hashalom ehavu, love, peace, and truth, right? Shomea tefillah. So it's a beautiful piece of music, and it has a great musical arc in it. It's filled with drama. It does belong in the synagogue, but it is a cantorial concert piece too, and I guess in a way, we could say that we've moved from cantorial art as a showcase within as a centerpiece of the worship moment to putting it on the stage. Okay, so we'll go to the concert and have something experienced there. But let's give a nod to the Chazan here for that, for Hineni.
Absolutely. As the spouse of a chazan, I could verify your words. And we were talking before we started recording about metaphor and literalness in prayer. And I think one of the things that people forget with the Hineni is that the cantor did not compose it.
Yeah.
It's a script. And I often think that we miss the boat when we do not think of the prayer book as actually a script. When you go to a play or you watch a movie, you're not expecting the actors to improvise. You expect them to be faithful to whatever script that they've been given, and we judge them by how well they do that, not whether they were able to insert a soliloquy that wasn't called for by the artist. So one of the things that we have to appreciate is that the cantor is actually performing for us, because in most fields, experts do a better job than we do. And the cantor, in a certain sense, is the expert here, the one that's trained to emote. And one of the things that I sometimes think about is that it wasn't that long ago when people would hire professional criers for their funerals, because everyone knew that you might not emote the way you wanted to, even when it's your own dead before you, that someone else could actually shed tears in a way that would be emotionally cathartic for you.
Yeah.
And
this is huge.
It gives us something to think about.
This is really important, I think, because I think that so I'm a believer in sincerity, and I'm a believer in honesty. Of course, I think those are really important human virtues, and we have a kind of a cult of sincerity that's like, if you don't feel it, you shouldn't do it, or something like that. And in fact, what we have in ritual, exactly as Barry said, is the script that is supposed to take us someplace that will open these things up for us, and we will find the meaning by doing them according to the script. So I also like the Hineni, and I think we should appreciate, as Barry kind of alluded to, not only is it true that experts can do it better, for the vast majority of Jewish history, most people were illiterate and were not holding a prayer book. Yes. And so the Chazan, who in certain places and times was actually the synagogue poet, somebody wrote this prayer and it entered, a canonized version, but at certain times in Jewish history, prayer leaders were musicians who were also poets, and they wrote something which took us places that we couldn't get there on our own. There's some story, I don't know if it was Maria Callas or some other opera singer. She's rehearsing and she sings an aria and she begins to weep, and the conductor says, no, you're supposed to make me weep. You're not supposed to weep, you're supposed to make me weep.
You know what?
And this really works. I'm going to speak to a guy, Marty Weingarten was his name, Zichrono Livracha. He's been dead many, many years. He was it wasn't a very old guy, but he was older than me, but he had diabetes and he had terrible health, and he ultimately died quite young. And we were part of the Minyan in Philadelphia together, and he used to daven this, and he had a big Ashkenazi accent. And then he was like dying. Nirash v'nifchad. Mipachad Yoshev Tehilos Yisroa, and straight to the heart. Straight to the heart. I'm interested to know, by the way, in New Jersey, you got sunshine coming. I don't know if people can hear, but the rain is battering my windows.
Experiencing the sun as you speak. Or
we had a sun shower today when I left school, and a beautiful rainbow that lasted for maybe 20 or 30 minutes.
Amazing.
It's lovely. I think this is this impending hurricane, but I don't know if it's interrupted our audio here, but it's quite loud.
Oh wow! So on the note of, and we're almost out of time, which is, to what extent are we, do we allow ourselves, as leaders of services to have those experiences? I'm always kind of like on what you said, which is like I'm not supposed to have the emotion. I'm supposed to elicit that from you. You want something. You want to touch something. You want to have contact with it. I think, it's got to work in some ways. And
I'm a crier, so I do.
Yeah.
I am a crier. I cry in weddings and funerals all the time. I cry in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. The holy Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, the great 16th century Kabbalist, said, if you don't cry on Rosh Hashanah, that's a sign that something's wrong with your soul.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we do it in our own way. But it is an emotional. I mean, it's if we could just spend a minute just saying, there's the color, the emotional color of that day is different from Yom Kippur. We'll talk about that probably next week. But as we conclude here, what kind of emotional spectrum are we aspiring for? What do you want to feel? What do you want to feel this year? What do you want to, and who are you praying for? What are you praying for? Let's end with if we all went off the script and did it as jazz and said, here, give me your wishes for the new year, for Klal Yisrael. And here we can get emotional, because it's been a very, very difficult year.
Oh my gosh.
So what I would say is, what we aspire to and for is a cleansing openness. That the year has a way of closing us off and shutting us down and causing us to withdraw. And one way to understand Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's an attempt to open us up to God and to the community and to the world. And we hope that our experience on the high holidays, and it's not an accident that it's a 10-day season, will lead us in that direction, so that by the time we hear the shofar blast, it will, on Yom Kippur, it won't be the alarm or the plaintive moaning of Rosh Hashanah, but it will actually be the sound of redemption.
Awesome. I like to, between the 3 days of Rosh Hashanah and 2 days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I try to hold hands with my kids during the Mi Yamut parts.
Yeah.
It's just very, very intense, moments. And I really, whoa, Am Yisrael is,
We're in
a serious,
a lot of feeling for that. I want to pick up on that, if I may, and just talk about, we're in an epoch-making time here in terms of Israel, in terms of Klal Yisrael, really in terms of the place of the Jewish people in the world. And it's striking that we're on the verge of the possibility of a new formulation of our story, the renewal of our story, the renewal of the story of Israel, the renewal of Jewish peoplehood. Of course, it's tremulous, because this is a story that could go badly, as things are unfolding now, and we are so attentive to this difficulty in Israel as it's playing itself out. and yet it could also unleash a huge amount of potential. Yeah, that when I'm attentive to what people are saying in Israel, they're saying, yeah, it's an excruciatingly tense time, but there's optimism here. There's possibility because of the way people have been opened up and are yearning for something, and we don't know what will emerge from that, and so therefore we have our only option is to hope, and it's Kavel Adonai Chazak v'Emes Libecha v'Kavel Adonai, which is the last line of Psalm 27, which is, hope in the Lord, and whatever that means, it means like pull on to something. Hope Chazak v'Emes Libecha, be strong and have courage. Kavel Adonai, and hope, because there's always what to hope for, even when it seems that the situation is hopeless. There's really always what to hope for, and that's the bracha I think I want to leave with here. In addition to the emotion, all of the emotion. So we know that people are devoted listeners and watchers of this video and this podcast. The Ramah community is been wonderful. And Mitch Mernick, thank you for being our attentive producer in the background, putting us up on the website of Ramah. Barry, you put it on your Facebook page, and Jeremy on yours as well, and I put it on the YouTube channel. Thank you everyone who's written in and commented on the piece over the year. You know what? The next time we are here together, it's going to be 5784. Wow. Another year, another Shana Tova. From all of us, Shana Tova. May you have a good Yom Tov. Kativa Chatima Tova. Written and inscribed a beautiful year. Amen. Amen. Shana Tova. I'll see you next week.